And Justin showed you some impressive ones about the growth in the 80-plus population. Perhaps the single most important demographic of what's happening today is this one. It's what's known as the caregiver support ratio. And that's the ratio of adults between the ages of 45 to 64 to those over 80. Why? Because traditionally, overwhelming percentage of long-term care supports and services in America has been provided by the family. And those family caregivers are normally those adult children between the ages of 45 to 64, normally women. And by the way, in that chart that on the history that Justin put up, and he talked about the assisted living concepts and Sunrise and Holiday sort of as the initial spear of companies that really drove the growth of private pay senior living. I would argue that they didn't drive it, they were the beneficiaries of it. What drove the growth of private pay senior living in America? It's one individual, the boomer daughter. The boomer daughter. Because in the 1990s, the boomer daughter suddenly was faced with, on the one hand, mom needs care. On the other hand, the boomer daughter was now in the workforce. She had a job. And on the one hand, she didn't want to live with the guilt of putting mom in an institutional, old-style nursing home. And on the other hand, she didn't want to leave her job that she'd worked so hard and the career she'd worked so hard to build. And along came Paul and Terry Clausen and Sunrise, and along came Karen Brown Wilson and Assisted Living Concepts, and then other companies, Benchmark Senior Living and others. And suddenly private pay senior living took off in the 90s. It had been around in the 80s, but it took off in the 90s because of boomer daughters in the workforce that wanted an alternative. So when they walked into a Sunrise building, what did they see? They saw a curved staircase, a beautiful atrium, a chandelier, Queen Anne furniture, carpeting. By the way, a staircase that you would never want mom to use. But you weren't selling to mom. You were selling to her boomer daughter. And she saw the furniture, she saw the curved staircase, she saw the huge atrium and the chandelier, and said, oh, guilt relieved. This is home. I can move mom in here and I can keep my job. And assisted living took off because of that one individual, the boomer daughter. The question for the future is, what will that boomer daughter look for herself? Given the experience she's gone through, is she waiting and anticipating with huge excitement to have her daughter put her in an assisted living building? I don't think so. So those demand numbers ain't necessarily demand for what we're offering, folks. So, okay. Dramatic decline in family caregivers. So basically the ratio was 7 to 1 in 2015 of 45 to 64-year-olds to 80 plus. And in 2026, just a year and a half away, it'll be 5 to 1. It'll be 4 to 1 by 2031. And then 3 to 1 in the early 2040s. Less than half the number of those informal, unpaid family caregivers available. That's huge. That's enormous demand for what we offer. Because the adult children just aren't going to be there. Less than half in numbers. So you have dramatic decline in family caregivers, exploding demand. Justin's already chronicled that very, very well. But, and here's the but, rejection by tomorrow's customer of today's products. And I'm going to explain in more detail since that seems like a pretty bold assertion. Increased market segmentation. First generation senior living product, think, for instance, the original Marriott hotels, the original Hiltons, the original Sheratons. which I realize is obviously now Starwood and now part of Marriott. But then, fast forward to what's the hotel sector today? It's unbelievably segmented by length of stay, by business versus personal travel, by the type of building you want, by which amenities you want, by which price point. And they've so segmented. You know, you've got 38 different brands offered under the one large brand. Extreme segmentation. We're going to see that in our sector. In the next generation of product, we're going to see much more segmentation. Intense focus on health and wellness along with infection prevention. And we'll talk more about this. And so, as I would say it, it's an opportunity for disruptive innovation led by new leaders. It's an entrepreneur's dream in terms of market opportunity. But the issue is, will that entrepreneurial leadership, will those entrepreneurial products, are they going to be by internal disruptors, including you in this room, or are they going to come from external disruptors? If I wanted to, I could consult every single week to a well-funded entity outside our industry that has contacted me and said, would you come consult? We think your industry is ripe for disruption. We've raised whatever, 50 million, 100 billion, in one case, 3 billion, to come at your industry to develop an alternative product. And we'd like to consult with you. So people see exactly what Justin showed. Enormous demand, enormous opportunity. But they also recognize this is a sector ripe for disruption. So where will your organization fit in? So I want to say, why do I say we're so ripe for disruption? I want to give you 4 points that I hope you'll remember. Why we're ripe for disruption, whether it's internal or external. And you can remember it just by simply 4 words. And then I'll expand on each one. 1, demand. 2, cost. 3, dread. 4, complacency. Pretty simple. Demand, cost, dread, complacency. What am I talking about? Demand we've already talked about. Huge demand, all right? Huge demand. I'm incredibly bullish about the future of what we do. I'm incredibly bearish about the future if we keep doing what we've been doing. I hope you see the distinction. I'm incredibly bullish about our future. The demand is there. The need is there. But I'm incredibly bearish, meaning negative, for those that say, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing and look at all this demand. So demand. Secondly, cost. Basically, the vast majority of the population out there can't afford what we have to offer. That's a problem. That's a challenge. They can't afford what we have to offer. And even if they can afford it, they're scared to move in because they're afraid they'll run out of money. So there are a lot of people who actually can afford it, but they think they can. They're concerned how long they'll live. They're concerned they'll run out of money. And particularly in the for-profit sector, they're concerned that then they'll be thrown out if they run out of money. So even though they may have the funds, and so why do people postpone and move in at a higher acuity level and have a much shorter length of stay? Because of that very issue. They're afraid their money will run out. So they're going to wait until the very last moment to move into your community because they're upping the chances their money won't run out then. Because they're scared to death that they'll have to make another move and that'll be a really unattractive situation to them and to their family. So cost, as I said, averages deceive. No average customer moves in. No average income moves into your community. A specific customer with specific income, specific assets moves in. So we are in a greater than ever barbell effect in America today. The top 10%, their wealth has gone up more than 40% over the last 5 years. So they can easily afford our product. But by the way, they can also easily afford to stay at home, even though it's outrageously expensive and more expensive than moving in to your community. And you're really good at showing them that. But that group, they have so much increased wealth, they can afford to stay at home if that's the attractive alternative. So one of the groups that I was asked to consult with, this is the group that had raised over $1 billion, $1 billion, to come after wealthy older adults that, as they saw, didn't want to move into the senior living product and wanted to stay at home. And so they're developing a stay-at-home product for wealthy seniors. Very customized, very individualized. So, dread. First thing was demand. Second thing was cost, affordability. Third thing is dread. Why am I using the phrase dread? The reality is the majority of our customers dread moving into our communities because the move signifies a loss of something that's key to their sense of identity, self-worth, a key to their sense of what I would call continued purpose and meaning in their lives. And a move into our communities is seen as a recognition that my decline has reached such a point in life that now I need to be moved into this community. It'd be great if most of our residents moved in for socialization reasons, but especially because of the income issue that I mentioned, the cost, fewer and fewer move in for that. They move in more often than not, as I like to say it, not because they can't live any longer without what we offer. Their family can't live any longer without what we offer. So dread means we offer, and I'm going to talk more about this, what I call an avoidance product. We offer an avoidance product where basically the message is we have what you need when you or your family members absolutely can't live any longer without it. But it's an avoidance product where I'm going to do everything I can to postpone for as long as I can having to use that product. Folks, cost, most can't afford. Demand, huge. Dread, I don't want to move in. I'm being pushed out. I want to stay home. You all know all the surveys. I want to stay home. Those are three classic prescriptions in every industry that's been majorly disrupted. And I don't have time this morning to go through. But I've done a study of 16 different industries and how disruption happened in those industries. I've just named three of the key factors. Now, what's the fourth one? Fourth one is complacency. What do I mean? Complacency in two senses. But it boils down to, I can continue doing what I'm doing today and look at those numbers that Justin showed. Wow, the future is bright. I'll be at 100% occupancy, I just got to hold on. Complacency is basically saying, they'll come to me because they have no other option. They will fill my building because they have no other option. Complacency is also saying that the old way of thinking about private pay senior living, the way of thinking about it prior to COVID, which no health care happens in our building, we ship out. We have our van, see our name on it, it takes you to your doctor's appointments. Nights and weekends, we have a great relationship with the paramedics. That's how we do health care. We ship out during the day with our van, at night through the local paramedics, and on the weekends. And that's healthcare. But no healthcare happens in our building, so gosh, then you might want to regulate us, and we don't want you regulating us, so no healthcare happens in our buildings. Then COVID happened. Everything changed overnight. Reality today, as you have had to, because of hyperinflation, labor costs, all the things that Justin talked about, you've had no choice but to raise your rates. And for many senior living providers, that means 22, 23, 24, oftentimes a cumulative increase of 20% or even 25%. 4% a year at least, in some instances 5%, 6%. So you've raised your rates, but in that situation, what happened during COVID is the customers and our customers' children all realized about on-demand services. And whereas prior to COVID, there was still a positive sense about, okay, you're going to send mom to the hospital, she'll get good care there. Now people are afraid of being sent to the hospital. They're afraid of ending up in the ER. And when they're paying you $4,000, $6,000, $8,000 a month, the adult daughter's not doing that to get a call at 2 a.m. in the morning on Saturday night that, gee, we just want to let you know, mom just left for the hospital with the local paramedics, and we wanted to let you know. And she has this panic of, oh my gosh, she has, maybe very mild dementia, but she's going to be in the ER. I don't know what's going to happen. How long is it going to be? And is a staff member going with her? No, we don't have that kind of staff. Gee, I got to get dressed, or I've got to get on a flight tomorrow morning. And they're paying you $6,000 a month for that? Folks, that's a model that ain't going to last. Will not last. You will go out of business with that model. They're not going to pay $4,000, $6,000, $8,000 a month for the adult daughter to then get the call in the middle of the night saying we just shipped mom off to the ER. And we have no responsibility now. That model won't work. It's an anachronism. It will not have a future to it. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is, if you think, I'm not saying you have to provide predictive, preventative health care yourself, but if those services aren't happening in your buildings, you will not be competitive in the future. Pure and simple, you just won't be competitive. Unless you're going after a much younger and really not offering an assisted living memory care model, or even what independent living has become today, which is yesterday's assisted living. But if you're offering an active adult model, yes, that's a little bit different. But even there, they're going to expect them to focus on wellness. And they're going to want to know how you're accomplishing that. So, ripe for disruption. Why? Demand overwhelming, costs unaffordable to the majority of folks out there. And even when they can't afford it, they're afraid they'll run out of money and you'll kick them out. 3, dread. We offer an avoidance product that people will do everything they can to avoid moving into our product. And lastly, complacency. We feel like the demand numbers mean all we have to do is keep doing what we're doing and we'll be great. And we don't need to make any changes. Those are the 4 classic factors of an industry ripe for disruption. So the challenge is, will we be the disruptors or will we be disrupted by someone else? There's no doubt the demand and need is there. Make no mistake about it. But those 4 factors to consider.